So the other day we created one gear, and we're going to continue in that same document today. So make sure you're going to go over to your Documents tab and then click on Created by Me, and then go ahead and find your gear document. It should say gears, your initials, and then your period, and go ahead and click on that, and you're going to open that up. Today we're going to add another gear. It's going to have a different diameter, but we have to be careful because we are eventually going to assemble these to function and work together, which means the shapes and dimensions of the gear teeth have to be similar, if not really identical, so that they can function properly together, right? Like if you had a tooth that was too big or even too small, then when you would interlock them, the machine wouldn't work. So we will be referencing that document. So that's why we opened it. And in addition to that, we're eventually going to create an assembly. But in order to do that, we need to create a new part. So go ahead into this plus sign, insert new element, and we're going to create a new part studio. Why? Because we're going to create a new gear. This time we're going to make a gear that's smaller. And again, similar as before, I'm going to hide the top and right planes. Why? Because I'm going to use the front plane to create my first sketch, in which I'm going to draw the circle using the center point circle and using the origin, and draw my first circle. I'm going to have this one be 1.5. And then remember, if I go back to the first one that we created, and I even go back to the original sketch, and I double click that and I look at it straight on, the inner circle was 3, and then the one on the exterior was 3.25. So there was a difference of a quarter. I need that same distance in the new gear. Why? Because that helps to shape each of our gear teeth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Part Studio, a new one. If this is the inner circle at a diameter of 1.5, then I'm going to create another circle, again, at the origin that's a little bit bigger. Click to make it stay. And I need to type in 1.5 plus 0.25, right? Because I want to add and make it a little bit bigger, okay? Because I still need that quarter of an inch. All right, now, similar to before, I'm going to go ahead and create one ellipse at the top to start the shape of the gear teeth. So click on this arrow down, click on an ellipse. I'm going to zoom in so that I can see it a little bit better. I'm going to go directly straight up from the origin. I'm going to click on that inner circle. I'm going to go vertically up and a little bit past. Click to make it stay. And now I need it to go at a certain width, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click about. Now, if you noticed, when I clicked the second time, a box showed up around the 0.305. That's like the height, the longer dimension of the ellipse. And again, I need to make that the exact same as the other one. So I'm going to go back to our initial part. I'm going to check it out. And if I zoom in and I look at that shape, the total height was 0.3, and then the shorter distance was 0.15. So I need to use those same dimensions. So click on the ellipse. Oh, looks like my dimensions went away. Don't worry, you can click on the dimension tool. I'm going to click on my ellipse. This distance, that's going to be 0.15. Remember, and then the other distance going this way, click to make that stay, that's going to be 0.3. Okay. Now that we have the shape, now we need to go ahead and we're going to use our circular pattern tool. So click on it, go ahead and click on the shape that you would like to repeat. And if you notice, because I've already had this kind of circular pattern, it was there. So I'm going to go ahead and, click. I'm going to click to make that stay, because that's what that green check on my mouse icon. But again, I don't just want 3. I need more than that. What would help in determining how many more is kind of, yes, we can estimate the space. So let's try, I don't know, let's try 14. That still looks a little bit too far in spacing. So I'm going to actually go back to the original gear that we created. The other dimension I want to add or find out, so I'm going to click on that, is the dimension from, we'll say, the center of this ellipse to the center of that ellipse. And let's check out what those two, what that dimension is. Okay, so those two looks like it's about 0.26. So we need something around there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my new part and let's check out what that dimension currently is. So I'm going to click on this, click on that. Well, that's still pretty big discrepancy. So that means I'm going to go ahead and hit escape so that dimension does not stay. Because if that dimension stayed, then it would be constrained, which means you cannot change it. So make sure when we're kind of finding those dimensions out, if you know it's going to change, delete it. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back up to this 14x, and I need to add more, because if I add more, then they're going to get closer together. So let's try 18 and let's see how that affects it. Oh, that looks a little bit better. So now let's check out the dimension. Go from here to here. Bring that up. Cool. That is at 0.26. A little bit less. It looks 0.26. That is great. That's just about as close as we are going to be able to get right now because we are just estimating. And again, there's tons of gear calculators. We're just kind of trying to understand their basic shape and understand that no matter the diameter of it, that the size of the teeth and the spacing in between each of the teeth on a gear, you need to be careful of that. Otherwise, the gears won't function properly together. Okay. So that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and hit the finish sketch. And now I'm going to click on extrude because I need to select the shape that needs to extrude. Hard to see the mouse at a few points there. I think OnShape is trying to catch up with all of those good clicks going on. And again, remember, if you accidentally end up selecting a face, don't worry. Don't just hit the green or the red check. You can always add them, or you can always remove the faces. So it looks good, but it looks like I forgot this shape, so I'm going to click on that. Again, remember, if I accidentally clicked on that small portion right there, I can zoom in, hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, and click on the shape that you want to deselect. And if you notice, it deselected it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on an isometric view, or you could remember, you could use that icon right there. That changes it. And I also want to keep it the same thickness. Okay. So if I go back to my part studio, finish sketch, this was the first gear that we created, right? I want to remember that thickness. So I can actually use this measuring tool, or you can go back into the original extrude. But I'm going to use this measuring tool, click on that, and then I'm going to click on the orange line, not the dot, because that means you're selecting a point. It's not going to give you a measurement. You want the length of that line, because that will give you the thickness of that gear. Click on it, and it's a 1/2 inch down there at the bottom. So I'm going to go back here, and that means I need to extrude it, change it from 1 inch to a 1/2 inch. And go ahead and click on the green check, and there is our gear. But similar to before, I'm going to go ahead and create a little depressed portion in the middle. Why? Because that's just kind of a nice finishing touch to gears. So I'm going to start a 2D sketch. I'm going to click on that face. I'm going to look at it straight on. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw another circle. So click on that center point circle. Click on that center. I'm going to click to make my circle stay. And I'm going to change it to be, again, remember this was 1.5. So I'm going to change it to 1.25 just to make it a little bit smaller. Green check. I'm going to go ahead and extrude it again. Click on the isometric so I can see what's going to happen. Click on it, and I would like to remove. And I need to change this dimension to 0.1. Why? Because that's the same depth that I did on the other gear. Click on green check. I'm going to go ahead and hide this front plane now. Why? Because I need to create another depressed kind of portion on the other side. And that front plane will kind of interfere with us doing so. So in order to use that mirror tool again, we're going to go ahead and add a plane that cuts that gear in half. And I'm going to use not an offset plane, but you could actually use an offset plane from there if you wanted to, but I'm going to use a mid plane. And it's going to be, and now I'm going to click on that face of the gear, rotate it, and then the backside. And if you notice, again, it's giving you a preview. There's the plane. Okay, that's going to be our mid plane for our mirroring. And click on the green check. So there's the plane. I need to click now on our mirror tool. I'm going to click on it. It says entities to mirror, but it says part. I don't want to mirror a part. I would like to mirror a feature. And a feature was that extrusion. And now I need to select the mirror plane. So I click on that mirror plane label, and then I'm going to click on plane 1 here because that's the mirror, and rotate it. You should see a preview. To confirm that, click on the green check. And there you go. I'm going to go ahead and again hide that plane 1. And then the last thing to remember is I need a hole in the middle. Why? Because you need to put a bearing and also the axle that it's rotating around. I'm going to go ahead and click on 2D sketch and click on that interface. Click on the front view so I can look at it straight on. I'm going to draw a center point circle from the origin. Make it a little bit bigger. And remember, I wanted to use a 1/4 of an inch bearing. So if I want to use that, you have to think about tolerances a little bit. So I don't want to make that exactly 0.25 because typically even with 3D prints, it's going to make it a little bit bigger, or even smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and do 0.27. Again, it's a teeny bit bigger than a 1/4 of an inch. Hit enter. I'm going to go ahead, green check, confirm that's the only shape that I need to add. I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to remove, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that face. And I want it to go through the whole thing. And yes, I want it to remove. So I now click on the green check. And there you go. This should be your second gear. Okay, and it's a smaller diameter gear. But if you look at the shape of each tooth, it looks like, if I look at it straight on, that one of these two teeth, if you had another gear next to it, it would interlock. And we will go ahead and we will go through the assembly with this in one of our next upcoming videos.